Hi, my name is Lindsay Chichester. I'm the Extension Educator here in Douglas County. Today we're at our apiary, and with me is Barber. He is a master beekeeper and he's also my mentor for the beekeeping project. And Del is a wealth of information, so today he's going to be explaining as we do a split. So we'll be splitting one of the hives today and making 2 hives out of it.
Okay, good morning. This happens to be hive number 3 for Lindsay's apiary. It's a nice strong hive. It overwintered really well. So we're going to open it up today and go through and see if we can find some frames of eggs and young larvae that are less than 3 days old. And we're going to try to have them create a new queen. And when we make this split, it'll be into a 5-frame nuke. And then we'll replace frames in this box for them to continue to fill up for the future.
To make a split, you'll want to dress in all of your protective beekeeping gear. So we have a veil that is round to keep the net off of your face. The jacket, we wear, in this case, nitrile thin gloves. They make leather gloves which are thicker, but these just help with being able to grasp items more easily. The pants, and then closed-toed and protective shoes. So what works really well, the hives are about 16 inches off the ground, is to utilize a milk crate. So the milk crate can go on the pallet next to the hive. And then we're just using this plastic nuke, and it can sit right on top of that milk crate so that you're not constantly bending over. You can just gently twist and move things so it saves the back and makes the process much easier. This nuke box is actually one that we're repurposing. Last year when I started this apiary, I purchased 3 nukes of bees. So the bees I bought came in this 5-frame nuke. And so we're just going to repurpose it and use it again today. And the lid just pops off, and it's plastic. And then these blue supports are meant so when you put your frame in, they just hold it up, and then you'll fit 5 frames in here. And we'll show that in a little bit. And the lid goes back on. And then you can feed the bees a sugar water on either of these holes on the end. And then you can also open up this end so the bees can come in or out, or when you're ready to transport them, close it.
There are other nuke boxes that can be either purchased or made. Most of them are 5-framers that you buy from commercial beekeepers. But I have experimented around with making 6-framers and 7-framers just to give us a little bit more room for the bees to expand in a nuke box, and that gives us a few more bees to put into a hive. In a 5-frame nuke, there's about 1,000 bees on each side of the frame. So if you put a 5-framer in, you've got about 10,000 bees in this box if all the frames are covered. So by expanding it to a 6-framer or 7-framer, you can get 12,000 bees or 15,000, 14,000 bees or so in these other nuke boxes. So we're going to go ahead and open this box up now and get started. So Lindsay has a strap over the top of this, and this strap is to secure the lid so that the wind doesn't blow it off, or if a bear got back in here, it would knock it over and destroy it. Okay, first of all, we want to remove the telescoping lid on the outside and very gently lift it up. And we usually tip it so that we can look at the inside of the lid. We see quite a few bees clustered here, but we also want to examine it very closely to make sure that there's not a queen on there. I've opened these up sometimes and found a queen up on the top, and you don't want to set that aside because then the queen will leave. So we're going to set it very gently into another box. We didn't see any queen in there, so that's good. The bees are very calm. We're going to use a hive tool to lift the inner cover up because it's usually propolized or stuck down. We're going to lift it up very gently, and you're going to see on the inside of it that there was some comb that attached to it, and it came loose from the sugar board we had on the inside. We'll look again on this to make sure there's no queen on here. If we see her, then we'll of course want to make sure that we get her secure.
So the queen she's longer bodied than the worker bees. And that's primarily what we're seeing in here. Worker bees are female, as is the queen. And the queen also has shorter wings.
But she's usually the largest bee in the hive, on the hive face and the hive surface. Now these are candy boards, as you can see, and they've consumed quite a bit of this. This is the second candy board I think Lindsay's put on. So these bees were really active and very hungry during the winter. And you can see some comb built in there. We'll lift this up and let you take a look at that also. Break this out of there. There we go. Then we'll turn around and look for the queen on the other side too, because there's quite a bit of comb on this side.
So the candy boards I made and put on these hives in November, because I know that in the winter months I can't open up the hive. So this helps ensure that they've got enough food throughout the whole winter. And this hive I knew was a big one, so that's why they have the 2 sugar boards versus my other hives that just have 1.
This is the second sugar board. You can see that it's about, at least half of it's been consumed also. We'll look on here for the queen also, just to make sure she's not in among these worker bees. So you can see this hive is very active, and it's a real nice strong hive. So this is going to be a really good one for us to split.
Yeah, there's definitely larvae up here, so she could be.
Is there larvae in there?
Yep.
Oh yeah, good. Yep, that's good. You can see the larvae here, the white grubs. When they broke these frames apart, they were exposed. So these white grubs here are uncapped larvae. Now this last ring is just a spacer ring to give some room for you to put candy board on, and also to put pollen patties in there if we want to put pollen patties in.
Okay, so what we're doing is we actually brought a tote with us today in anticipation that this hive was going to be big. And so we're actually just trying to set all of these different components inside the tote to keep everybody safe and together, and then we'll be able to move them back into the hive once we pull out the frames needed for the split.
You'll notice that I'm spraying. The bees are getting a little bit active now, so we'll kind of keep them down so we can work these frames. So we squirt them, and to them it seems like it's going to rain, so they get quite calm and attached to the comb. So that's our technique there. Let's start on the outside there with the tool. Now we're going to use our Hive tool to open this frame. We always start on the outside, because typically the outside frames don't have a lot of bees and so forth attached to it. As you can see, this one, there's very little activity on it. They started to pull some of the comb out, expand the comb along here, but it's not completely filled up. So we're going to put the Hive tool carrier, or the frame carrier, on the outside here, and we can set these frames there. And we want to replace these frames back in the hive in the same order that they came out, so we're very cautious and careful about how we're going to do this. And so we're going to pull the second frame out, and you'll see that it's got a lot of white capped comb on it. This is all honey that they've stored there. Is there anything on the other side, Lindsay?
Nothing on the other side.
Okay. Other side is empty. That's typically what happens. Is the outside of the outside frames in a hive have very little activity on them until the hive gets completely filled up. And that's where the temperature is the coldest on the outside of the hive, so they have a tendency to stay toward the inside. This has, again, some capped comb on it, which is honey, and there's some on this side also. That's their food source, extra food source for the winter.
And we'll come closer.
All right, I'm starting to see a little brood on this
Yeah, I
side,
got
Del.
some cap brood over here on this
Yep.
side too. See if you can see any eggs in there. I blow on the hive very gently. They react to carbon dioxide, so if I want to move them out of the way without having to touch them, I just blow very gently on them and they move out of the way. If you look down in there, you'll see some real small larvae, and that's what we want. So we could take that one if you want to. You see them?
So right in the bottom center down here, they look like little white worms curled up.
But there's some that are very, very small, and that's what we want. We want larvae, eggs that are 1 to 3 days old, larvae that are less than 3 days old. And there are some in here that are very small, and they'll be very good. There are some drones in there. Here's a drone here, there's a drone there. They're much larger bees than these others, and they're the males. Their bottom is round, their eyes cover the top of their head, and their only function is to mate with the queen. What you see here are a lot of brown capped larvae. These are all going to be worker bees. If the caps are round or dome shaped or bullet shaped, sometimes they're referred to as, then they're going to be drones. But these are all going to be worker bees. But I'm not seeing any young larvae on here suitable for us to potentially raise a queen. So we're going to put this back in the box.
There she is, the blue dot queen from last year.
You see her right there? See her right here? She's got a blue dot on her. She's the queen from last year. So we're going to put this frame in our nuke box. Okay, we're going to place this frame gently down in the nuke box. We're going to scrape the wax off the top of this frame and get it back in the frame or in the hive. Let me have it. I've got it here. Let me hold it so we can drop it straight down in there. There you go. Good. Otherwise, you can never close the thing down.
Okay.
We're going to put that in the middle of the nuke box, and then we'll keep adding 4 more frames in here with larvae and/or eggs in here. We close that just to help keep them warm so that they don't get chilled.
So what we're doing is we know that the queen is on this frame, and so we're deciding to keep the brood that she has had right here in this top box with her and together. So we're going to be taking all of this brood, even though ideally it's not in the young larval stage that we had hoped it was. We know that she's active and that she's laying. So we're taking her and her brood. We've got to be really careful that we know she's in here, that we don't accidentally roll her, which means topple her over or kill her, because then we would have 2 hives without a queen. And while they can make one, it's ideal to not have that. So Del's putting in, this one is primarily Ipni space and some honey. So this will provide them with a little bit of food and room to keep growing. So right now, this is our 5-frame nuke, and it's full. So we don't want the queen to make a great escape, so we'll close them in there. And I'm just going to keep it from possibly falling over, set it down on a more stable surface since it's full.
Okay, we're going to put an empty frame in the middle to replace one of those 4 frames we took out.
And the wax that we've scraped off, they will actually repurpose that and use it to build out new comb on these empty frames. And then we just want to make sure we use our hive tools here at the end to smash the frames back together. There's enough space to allow what they call bee space, so the bees can move up and down. Okay, so we're gonna put the sugar boards back on for now. Right, Bill? There we go. Oops, let's flip it the entrance is on.
And spin it around.
Yep. So there's a small hole right here that acts as another entrance into the hive. So we'll just make sure it's facing the southeast.
This one have a hole in it too?
It does.
Okay.
Grab the second one back on. Try not to smash any in the process. So since we have so many bees,
Let's just take them off the top here.
we're going to use this bee brush, and it gently just moves them off there so that when we put everything back together, we don't smash any, we hope. We've
I'm going
got
to shake these out front.
put our telescoping cover back on.
We're going to put this empty tub out here so that the bees that are there will then find their way back into the hive, and that way they won't be lost.
Since we've been in there, we've worked through them fairly aggressively. They are more active right now, a little agitated. So the best thing we can do is close them up and leave them alone for several days. And what we'll also do is fill up their sugar water. We're right now in spring, so until we get more stuff blooming, we're in what's called a dearth. So there's not quite enough nectar and pollen yet. So we provide sugar water to them. They still have their sugar boards for extra food. So we want them to work on rebuilding a queen. They'll realize that theirs is no longer there.
So since we removed the queen and put her in that 5-frame nuke, we have now some young larvae and some eggs in here with a lot of young worker bees. So they're going to be raising a new queen, and that's going to take about 30 days for that to happen. When they decide which egg or larvae they want to develop into a queen cell, they'll develop that, and it'll take 16 days for that queen to develop. She'll be fed royal jelly through her whole life, and so she'll grow quite rapidly, and then when she emerges, within 3 or 4 days she will go on her maiden flight to get fertilized, and she'll find a drone collection area in this arena here and mate with up to 25 drones if she's fortunate and the weather is favorable. But that's what the splits are all about. You leave one of the boxes with no queen and the other with a queen, and the one without a queen will start to raise their own from some young eggs or larvae in that hive. So that's what we're going to be watching here for the next 30 days, and make sure we see queen cells in here. And we may have to take the top box off, the one that we moved the frames out of. We may have to take that top box off and look into the bottom box to find the queen cells, because it depends on where they want to raise that queen is where you're going to have to try to find her. So it will be a little bit of a challenge to find that queen cell sometimes. Okay, we've closed the entrance on this nuke box, and we're going to tape it down because the plastic is swollen a little bit. We're going to leave this closed for one sun cycle, which is, we're closing it now and we'll open it again tomorrow morning and let the bees then begin to do their active part, because there are a lot of adult bees in here, a lot of foragers, and the queen is in here, so they're all mature. There are a few larvae that'll hatch, which will give her a chance to expand. And we're going to place this then on this pallet here and leave it just facing this direction for tonight. Tomorrow when Lindsay takes that tape off and opens it, then we'll turn it so that it's facing southeast, so that the bees then will begin to get out and forage and continue to grow.
Split should be made between sometime in April or May, and the temperature needs to be at least 50 degrees or above. Ideally, it should be a day where there's no wind, as wind can kind of agitate the bees as well.